Hey guys, so today I want to talk about parentheses. Okay, so parentheses, first point, you always use them in pairs. I see a lot of the time people use one parenthesis and then never close it. Okay, so just like you see here, you need to always use them in pairs. I have my first one and my second one. Okay, now we use parentheses to provide additional information. Okay, the writing in parentheses can be whatever. It can be a single word, a fragment, multiple complete sentences. It doesn't matter. Okay, now parentheses should add information, but they should never disrupt or affect your sentence. Okay, so what that means is that the parentheses do not change the grammar of your sentence, and the sentence should still make sense if I take the parentheses out. That's what we call the parenthetical material out. Okay, now to make sure you're using parentheses right, read the sentence without the parenthetical content. Okay, so without whatever you put in the parentheses. If it still makes sense, parentheses are acceptable. If it doesn't, you need to change the sentence so that it can work independently of the parentheses. Okay, so when I say it shouldn't change the grammar of the sentence, this is what I'm talking about. So look at these two examples. The president and his assistant traveled by private jet. Okay, so if I remove my parenthetical material, it's the president traveled by private jet. Great, that's fine. That can stand alone as its own sentence, makes perfect sense. Now, if I said the president and his assistant were expected to arrive by 10 a.m., but then I take out and his assistant, it is the president were expected to arrive by 10 a.m. Hopefully, you heard that I just said president were, and hopefully that sounded incorrect to you. Okay, so we want the parenthetical material to not change the grammar of the sentence at all. So it would not affect my subject-verb agreement, for example. I'm still acting like just president is my subject. All right, so let's talk about what to do with like other punctuation in the sentence that might be around or inside your parentheses. So when a parenthetical sentence stands on its own, so when there's a complete sentence within your parentheses and it's not part of another sentence, right? I wouldn't usually recommend doing this, but if you do it, if you have a totally new sentence in parentheses, okay, you put its punctuation within the parentheses. So the idea that theoretical physics can be taught without reference to complex mathematics is patently absurd, period. But don't tell that to the publishers of such mathematics-free books or the people who buy them. All right, so notice I put my period. So this is a whole new sentence by itself, okay? But I put it in parentheses, so I'm going to put the period inside the parentheses, okay? Now, when we put parentheses inside a larger sentence, okay, and it's at the end of that sentence, the closing punctuation mark for the sentence is placed outside the closing parentheses. Okay, so after 3 weeks on set, the cast was fed up with his direction, or rather, lack of direction. All right, and then notice I put my period outside the parentheses. All right, when parenthetical content occurs in the middle of a larger sentence, if there's any other punctuation going on around there, commas, semicolons, dashes, whatever, you put them outside of the parentheses, okay, exactly as it would be as if the parentheses weren't there. So we verified his law degree, Yale, class of 2002, but his work history remains unconfirmed. So we have a comma here because we're connecting two independent clauses with a fan voice. We need a comma. And we just put that after the parentheses, okay? Now, when there's a complete sentence in parentheses, but it's part of another sentence, all right, it should not be capitalized or end with a period. But if it's a question or if it's a really exciting statement, okay, you can put a question mark or an exclamation point within the parentheses within a larger sentence, okay? So we verified his law degree. None of us thought he was lying about that, okay? So notice this is a complete sentence, but it's not an exciting statement or a question. So no capitalization, no period, okay? If it's a sentence you would use a period for, don't put the period. Right? But not his billion-dollar verdict against Exxon. How gullible did he think we were? Okay, so notice I have a question in the parentheses. It's a complete sentence, it's a question. No capitalization, but I can put my question mark inside the parentheses since it's a question. Okay, and then I do my parentheses, then my end punctuation for the sentence. All right, now parentheses can be used for random stuff, so just to quickly go through this list. When we're doing a list within a sentence, you can use parentheses to enclose the number. Usually put time zones in parentheses, area codes for phone numbers in parentheses. If you are, using a foreign word, you can put the translation of that word in parentheses. You can put, the years of someone's birth and death in parentheses after their name. We use it for abbreviations. So when you first introduce an abbreviation or when you use an abbreviation that people might not know. So like here, John Smith has been appointed CKO, Chief Knowledge Officer of the merged company. Someone might not know what CKO is, so in parentheses you can explain what that is. Or vice versa, if you want to use an abbreviation throughout your paper, the first time you introduce it, you can say its full name. So like in conducting the study, researchers relied on positron emission tomography, PET, and to a lesser extent, functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI. Okay, so because we explained what that is, for the rest of the paper or paragraph or editorial, whatever you're writing, you can just use the abbreviations. Okay, so lots of different ways for you to use parentheses. Main way is when we're adding information to a sentence, okay, and just kind of adding a comment or something to that sentence, okay? All right, so we're going to practice with this. We'll talk about it more tomorrow.